Nature is something that you still love to go back to, because that is one place I found that still has a spring, that still has an autumn, and you can see the difference of nature. I have spent 3 years of my life there studying, doing my graduation, and that was the time when I was exposed to the rich art division of that particular place, which is called Kala Bhavan. My book is about a sculptor who travels the world and comes back to Kala Bhavan and finds some kind of completion to his life, some kind of meaning to his life, while he sculpts Krishna's 6 figures. Rest is for you to read and judge. I remember her advice once again and keep shut right there.
Thank you, Coral. I think we all realize that despite its far-reaching influence and impact, art somewhere struggles to find its space in the many other vocations and professions that our young talent choose to fall for. So, I guess we would love to hear from our esteemed guests and the author present here, all of whom have some or the other background in art, their views on the representation of art and artists in popular media. So we'll have that session now, and Coral would be moderating the session.
Thanks, Prachi. Actually, I thought of including this small portion in the book launch simply because while writing this book, in the process of writing this book, and also I have some columns that are coming up in IBN Life, which talk about different kinds of arts and artists in visual and performing arts, and their experiences, and I am exposed to the kind of social prejudices that they face when someone chooses to pick up art as a profession. As a hobby, it's absolutely fine. When you pick up that as a profession, there's a lot of things that goes in the back of my mind simply because you don't know how difficult it will be to make sense in that particular profession. So I have three very esteemed people with me, and I would like to know from them one by one what are their views on that. I'll start with Anupa, who is an art consultant, and her contribution to art has been very profound. Anupa, when I was talking to a few artists, one of them actually told me that he was sitting in front of Academy of Fine Arts in Calcutta, and he was doing a sketch, and a mother was sitting in front and feeding her child, and he overheard her telling the child that, see, if you don't study enough, then this is what you will be left to do in life. So, do you feel that art and artists do have that kind of prejudices, or things are improving, or what is your take in that, and given that you have?
Well, hello, and thank you, Gaurav. So, I've been an art consultant and a journalist and a fiction writer for many years. I think over the years things have changed. You know, the impression of the artist as the khadi-clad jholawala has changed now. Some of our artists have become world-renowned stars. But I think the kind of mystique around the artist still continues, whether it's a writer or a poet or a painter. People have a sense of romance around it, you know, and films like Raja Ravi Varma, the new film that Mehta made on Ravi Varma, all these kind of films lend and kind of reiterate the fact that the artist is a special being. I think it's changed. All over the world, artists are being celebrated and feted. What I enjoyed about Coral's book is that there was the hero is a world-traveled artist and sculptor, and he comes into this place which is very tradition-bound and rooted in a certain space. So you were transported, the reader was transported into a space which gives you a sense of how art colleges, art institutions work, and the kind of life that is around it, and the kind of detail with which he's written about it, he transported the reader. So what I wanted to say was that yes, Coral, there was this impression and there was this sense of prejudice, but not anymore. No, I think the art world is doing quite well. The fact that artworks are selling at like prohibitive prices today is itself one kind of, sign.
Okay, Bhavana, I would like to know from you. I mean, I see a lot of art representation. I mean, I see a lot of performing art representation in cinema. I mean, we have ABCD2 or ABCD1 for that example. I mean, we have singers as protagonists. We have dancers as protagonists. Why don't we have similar representation of visual art. I mean, in the recent past, we haven't seen anything other than Ramrasiya, which talks about a protagonist who is specialized in visual art.
Difficult to answer so specifically, but before that I would like to say that when I was growing up, after my graduation I did law by the government college, and I was also pursuing journalism diploma, and my father was waiting eagerly for me to decide when I finished both the courses at the same time as to what I was going to choose. And I think he was hoping that I would choose law. And I told him, no, I think I want to be a writer, and he was very disappointed because he felt that I'm going to be at the mercy of the family and I will have no money. And today, when for a court case I go to the court and all the black coat wallahs run to me, I think that I'm better off than those lawyers at the court, and being a writer is far more dignified. So one, I think that I don't think artists are anymore the pariah, and we are looking at them as outsiders at all. I think their work is appreciated, whether it's a Hussain or whether it is Raja Ravi Verma in the past, and we are paying a price for it. I remember as a journalist we had asked one of the creative designers to design a logo for our magazine, and my publisher, thinking that he was not going to use that logo, he threw it. And when she came for a meeting and he informed her that we are not going to be using that, so she said, all right, give me back my logo. And he said, I threw it, and she was so angry. And she said that even if you reject my design, you have to pay me half and you have to return your logo to me. So that taught me a lesson that you can't hire an art expert, take that person's design and think you're not going to use it and chuck it in the waste paper basket. Having said that, as far as cinema is concerned, I think cinema is always flirted with artists, whether it was V. Shantaram movies, where he is the court singer in a movie called Navrang, that beautiful song Aadha Chandrama Radha Adi, and in fact he gets a kind of a dry spell where he cannot write, and how the king forces him to beckon to his muse and create, and then how he is going mad and finally he creates. In the 70s we had Kabhi Kabhi, where Amitabh Bachchan is a poet and he sings Kabhi Kabhi, the title song, where in fact Sahib Ludhianvi's words say that every decade, every era will have a new writer and better listeners, and you will forget me, which is what happens in life. We had Sarjan, I don't know in which decade, probably 80s, where he is again an artist. Before that we had Rajesh Khanna in Safar, where he is an artist suffering from cancer. I don't count ABCD2 as a performing artist. There is a lot to be desired for dance, art form, visual or otherwise. But I don't think the artists are at all at the mercy of society. I think they are in a commanding position. There is something extremely romantic and intriguing about them. And if you, the really interesting girls and boys are wanting to fall in love with artists.
Thanks, God. Joy, finally, my question to you is, you are playing the protagonist in a very acclaimed play, Dance Like a Man, where you play a Bharatanatyam dancer. Do you feel the audience of cinema is different from the audience of theatre, or how easy is it to portray a dancer in a theatre where you're watching your live and you get the reaction right across the table?
See, first and foremost, cinema being a primarily mainstream activity and very business oriented, huge economics, they tend to touch upon themes and topics which the filmmaker is most familiar with. You will find that there has been representation of a poet or a dancer in Hindi cinema quite often, because Hindi cinema follows a musical tradition of our mythological tradition that we have had, the Nautanki tradition, etc., etc. So it's very easy to have a female dancer protagonist or an antagonist. because dance lends itself very easily. Pride being one of the classic examples. It was very easy to have a poet as a protagonist in the 50s and 60s, the era of idealism and poetry, where our music was borrowing from poetry. Now, of course, poetry has completely, yeah, it has just disappeared from our music. But there was an era where poetry was very easily lending itself to music. And therefore, you had a lot of films in the 50s and 60s where poet was the protagonist. But you will find that the other allied arts are not so well represented. Because a filmmaker often doesn't understand that world, or doesn't have the patience to delve into that world for commercial reasons. Because they feel that these arts are elitist in nature, number one. And therefore they will not appeal to masses. So the mass will not respond to a intrinsically fine artist. Because they don't know that world, they don't see that world. A poet they can understand because a poet is talking about love, and love everybody understands, and dance everybody understands. So I feel that is one of the primary reasons why our cinema, unlike European cinema, which has made so many wonderful biographies and autobiographies, autobiographical cinema on painters, Turner, Degas, Van Gogh, to say a few. And multiple films on each painter. I mean, I've seen 3 films on Dali and 6 films on Van Gogh. It keeps happening there, but it doesn't happen here. We have some of the finest traditions of painting, right from our classical times, to the miniature times, to the Mughal miniature, right into modernism, from Raja Ravi Verma to the new realist movement which happened over here during the independence time, nationalism in painting, etc. There are 1,000 things to explore, but it doesn't explore. So I think that's the thing. Theatre, the beauty and the problem of theatre is the theatre can afford to be a niche medium. It can afford to be. It can cater to 500 or 5,000 people, not 5 crore. And it can engage those 500 and 5,000 people in issues and ideas and topics which are not simplistic. It creates a debate with the audience. Theatre operates in terms of conflict. It creates a debate. So you throw an idea to the audience responds. And so you can deal with these things in theatre, which is little difficult to deal with in a mainstream film. Mainstream film must involve certain established norms and ideas which are simplistic, not simple, simplistic. So I guess that's the difference, So when I do a play like Dance Like a Man, which is about not just Bharatanatyam dancing, but also about the entire life of a dancer through different periods of Indian history, pre-independence, independence, and now. So it actually talks about how we achieved political independence in 1947, but did we achieve personal independence? So you have this male Bharatanatyam dancer who's obstructed by society. You have the female Bharatanatyam dancer who cannot learn from a Devdasi. Even then, it was frowned upon for respectable female members from upper middle class, from upper class to go on stage, etc., etc. So we achieved political independence, but personal independence was still a question. Today there is a personal independence, and therefore it's more acceptable for anyone to go up on stage. But the internal politics of funding, of kendras, of getting foreign tours, and etc., etc., that's still there. So Dance Like a Man explored all these issues, and it was able to touch nerves all over the world. Actually, we toured all over the world, and it was able to touch those nerves everywhere, because everywhere people could understand this conflict between an artist, his aspiration to express himself, and the society trying to block that. And especially in our country, where even today, I would say, okay, not the way it used to be earlier, where every boy was encouraged to be an engineer, and every woman was encouraged to be a doctor, and then civil service. And art was frowned upon for the simple reason that Nehru had given a slogan of nation building in those days. And middle class believed that nation building is best achieved by engineers, doctors, civil servants, and so on and so forth, where you work in tangible terms. And art is an abstract term. What does it build? Middle class believes it doesn't build anything. They forget that soul is a very important aspect of life, and if you don't build soul, you don't build anything. But that's another topic another time. Thank you.
Thank you, Joy. Anyone in the audience wants to ask anything, talk about anything?